As Cheryl lights our chalice this morning, I invite you to speak with us the words of our affirmation, which are printed in the chat line. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need. For these high purposes do we unite in worship.
Today's homily is, what is spirituality? And how can we recognize it? Words by Ronn Smith with adaptations. When asked to define spirituality, I was reminded of St. Augustine, who wrote, "What is grace? I know, until you ask me. Spirituality is more easily felt than expressed, as in welcoming a newborn baby or saying our last goodbye to a loved one or a hospice client. I've sensed it in hiking up a canyon, in the fall colors, in the winter crisp, listening to a Rachmaninoff piano concerto, or stumbling into a differential equation that just fits some natural phenomenon. I've seen it in a toddler's curiosity and the selfless acts of a good Samaritan. I see it in the hands and faces and words and hugs and smiles and love of this faith community. Koilu Mustafa said, the definition of spirituality is extremely mercurial. If a word means everything, it means nothing. Despite its many connotations, I will argue that spirituality is innate to the human condition and therefore an important part of our vocabulary. The search for meaning is rarely a solitary experience. It is not a solitary exercise. We can better engage others in this quest if we agree on the terms of that engagement. Experts say that even our private thoughts are constrained by words and how we define them. So to that end, I will define spirituality as the awareness of a meaningful connection. The awareness of a meaningful connection with the sacred whole. It is a commingling of the self with something greater. That something is sacred because it speaks to our most cherished ideals. Communion with it is meaningful because it enlightens and empowers us. However, this definition raises several questions. Is spirituality separate from physical reality? Is spirituality continuous? Or is it intermittent? How does spirituality differ from religion? How can we recognize it? And perhaps the most troubling question, is spirituality a quality of the universe or a quality of human nature? Is it out there or is it in here? I think it's the wrong question. There are two views of the same reality. If you hold up one finger and look beyond it, you see two flat and blurry images, one formed by each eye. But if you focus on your finger, those images coalesce into a single image that has definition and depth. The distinction between right eye and left eye disappears. When we are spiritually in tune, the external and the internal merge. The question no longer matters. Psychiatrist Gregory Friccioni proposed that the human experience consists, at its core, of a desire for attachment amidst the reality of separation. He said, we feel apart from larger life, from purpose, from the holy, and we seek connection. A baby's first response to the world is a cry of separation from its mother. So many of our experiences that follow resemble that cry. Spirituality is the sense of attachment to larger life amidst our daily feelings of separation. History suggests that the world still needs religion. The challenge is to distinguish between religion and spirituality without forcing a choice. World religion Houston Smith admitted, religion is like a cow. It gives milk, but it kicks. Yet he argued that spirituality needs the traction of religious tradition. Spirituality needs the traction of religious tradition to make it accountable to a community and keep it from becoming a purely self-centered quest. Think about that. Religious beliefs tend to focus on symbols, which Will James defended. The gods we stand by are the gods whose demands on us reinforce our demands on ourselves and on one another. The gods we stand by reinforce our demands on ourselves and on one another. Most of us need symbols of the holy, but devotion to these symbols obscures the ideals they represent. If we imagine religion as the cradle of spirituality, obsession with this cradle neglects the living thing inside. The cradle should serve as a support structure in which to awaken, nurture, and exercise our spirituality. Will James also said that spiritual excitement will often fail to be aroused. Spiritual excitement will often fail to be aroused until certain intellectual beliefs rooted in religion are touched. We should treat those beliefs with tenderness and tolerance, as long as they are not intolerant themselves. This tolerance is the hallmark of progressive religions, where symbols and creeds are subordinate to deeply felt principles. Christian scholar Marcus Borg speaks of spirituality as a relationship with God, a journey of transformation in which God is an experiential quality rather than an article of belief. The UU model entertains many beliefs, but one set of core values that we regard as self-evident and sacred. Reverend Forrest Church said, "Many windows, one light." Look around us. Just as more windows let in more light, we welcome all and any beliefs that might amplify these shared values. Authentic spirituality dissolves conscious boundaries between the self and the cosmos. Certainly, it entails goodness, truth, beauty, and mystery. But spirituality really begins when we cease to be observers of these qualities and become unwitting participants, being the painting as opposed to seeing the painting. To quote Emerson, "This deep power in which we exist is the seer and the spectacle. The subject and the object are one." Also in his book, The Universe in a Single Atom, the Dalai Lama speculates on the striking similarities between modern science and ancient Buddhist thought. There are not divisions. Peter Morales summed up this idea of unity. "Ultimately, my spirituality is being fully alive. It isn't my spiritual life, it is my life, all of it." Like Morales, I propose that we reject traditional dualism and the fragmentation of experience that goes with dualism. Spirituality does not so much isolate the sacred from the secular as render the secular sacred. When a bolt of lightning pierces the night, the world is really no different. But for that instant, we see it clearly. How do we recognize spirituality? In his book, Four Spiritualities, Peter Tufts Richardson says it is manifest in a quality of connectedness to life and cosmos, and integrity and wholeness. In my observation, spiritual people grasp the big picture. They display a sense of proportion that engenders humility. But is there a more tangible measure than that? Grasping the big picture. What is more tangible? I believe spirituality is manifest in one's actions as surely as one's countenance. Reverend Marilyn Sewell said, "Only one kind of religion counts today, the kind which is radical enough to engage in the world's basic troubles." Spirituality does not retire forever to solitude. It does not retire in the quiet to prayer. It engages. It engages humanitarian and environmental troubles. The Dalai Lama says the highest spiritual ideal of Buddhism is to generate compassion for all sentient beings. and to work for their welfare. Despite my attempts to define it, spirituality remains an enigma to me. Do any of us really know what life is about? Can we be sure that what we call spirituality is anything more than an evolutionary adaptation? I can't. But this mystery is what gives me goosebumps. The prospect of cultivating compassion from a cold universe. The prospect of beholding beauty from chaos. The hope of molding meaning from futility. Like Sisyphus pushing a stone repeatedly up the mountain, only to have it fall back. That hope. Whatever the form of ultimate reality, I agree with Camus. The struggle itself is enough to fill anyone's heart. At its finest, the human spirit upholds life, all of it, without expecting any reward. That spirit marshals the courage to persevere against the void of the unknown. For spirituality to endure, as Will James surmised, perhaps it needs nothing more than possibility and permission. Thank you.